The sun rose slowly over the small planet, casting a soft golden light across the quiet valley. The sky was pale orange with two moons fading in the distance. It was peaceful, safe, a new home. Jiho stood outside the new shelter, made from the remains of the Gaon and parts traded from his friends. The old ship had taken them through danger, but now it had become something different, part of their future. Renai stood beside him. Her silver wings shimmered in the warm light. They had, fully healed now, strong and beautiful. She stretched them gently as the wind touched her skin. "It's beautiful," she said softly. Jiho nodded. "Yes, it's not Earth, but it's ours." After escaping the pirates and finding help from Hana and the other traders, Jiho and Renai decided to settle on a small hidden planet known to only a few. The air was clean, the land was quiet, and best of all, no one knew they were there. Renai had learned much about humans in the last few weeks. She could now speak Jiho's language more clearly. She smiled more, laughed sometimes, and even teased him gently. She had changed, but Jiho had changed too. He was no longer just a pilot running from the past. He had found someone who made him feel alive again. Someone he wanted to protect not because she was weak, but because she mattered. Every morning, Jiho and Renai worked together. They built a garden near the stream. They planted vegetables, and strange blue fruits Renai brought from her memory of her homeworld. She said the seeds had been hidden in a small metal capsule around her neck. "Your world lives through these," Jiho had told her. One afternoon as they worked, Renai looked up at the sky. I love this place." Jiho looked at her. "Me too." There was silence. Then Renai turned toward him. "And I love you." Jiho froze. His heart beat fast. Slowly, he stepped closer. "I love you too." She smiled and wrapped both wings around him. It felt like home. But peace in the galaxy never lasted long. One morning, Hana sent a warning through the comms. "The pirates are searching again," she said. "They're offering rewards for a winged alien. A high reward." Jiho's face darkened. "They won't stop." "No," Hana said. "But we'll protect you. All of us." The message ended, and Jiho turned to Renai. "They know you're still alive." Renai stood tall. "Let them come. I won't run anymore." That night, Jiho looked at the stars again. He remembered the first time he found Renai in that dark wreck, weak and hurt. She had been scared. Alone. Now she stood with strength and pride. She was no longer running from the past. She was ready to face it. Together, they came up with a plan. If the pirates came, they wouldn't just hide. They would fight. The traders arrived days later, bringing weapons, shields, and defense systems. The quiet valley became a fortress. Then one cold morning, the sky above filled with black ships. The pirates had found them. Jiho and Renai stood on the hilltop side by side. Her wings stretched wide. His hands held a plasma rifle. "We end this today," Jiho said. Renai nodded. Together. The first blast hit the edge of the forest. The trees burned and the ground shook, but the traders fought back. Their small ships flew like birds, fast and sharp. They knew the land well, and used every rock and hill to their advantage. Renai took to the sky, her wings shining like stars. She flew between the enemy ships, drawing fire away from the ground. Jiho watched her with pride and fear. Suddenly, one pirate ship turned toward her, firing a heavy missile. "Renai!" Jiho shouted. She spun, dodging just in time. The missile exploded behind her. She flew higher and then dived straight toward the pirate ship, landing on its top. With her sharp claws, she tore into the ship's power core. The engines burst into flames and the ship crashed into the mountainside. The other pirates began to panic. They had not expected such a fight. Jiho led the final charge, forcing the pirates to retreat. After hours of battle, the sky grew quiet. They had won. Smoke rose in the distance and the valley was scorched in places. But Jiho and Renai stood alive. She landed beside him, tired but smiling. "It's over," Jiho said, putting his arm around her. She nodded. Yes, we are safe now. The traders cheered. The valley was theirs again. Weeks passed. The land healed, just like they had. The garden grew. The streams ran clear. The stars watched quietly. One evening, under the soft light of the twin moons, Jiho and Rinai stood in their small home. I have no more planet, Rinai said, but I have you. Jiho touched her hand. And I have you. She smiled. Then, we are home. She wrapped her wings around him, soft and warm. He held her close. Two hearts once lost in the galaxy had found each other. Forever. The night was quiet. Only the sound of insects and the wind in the trees filled the air. Jiho was walking through the forest, holding a small flashlight in one hand and his backpack on his shoulders. He liked to come here when he needed to think. The forest near his town was peaceful, and Jiho loved how it made him feel calm. But tonight was different. He heard a loud noise in the sky. It sounded like thunder, but the sky was clear. Then, he saw a bright flash of light above the trees. It wasn't lightning, it was something else. Something strange. Then came the crash. A loud boom echoed through the forest, and the ground shook beneath Jiho's feet. Birds flew away, frightened. His heart pounded. He turned off his flashlight and stared up at the sky. A burning object had fallen from above and disappeared behind the trees, leaving behind smoke and a trail of glowing sparks. Jiho didn't think twice. He ran toward the smoke. When he got closer, he could smell something strange, like burning metal and something sweet, almost like flowers. He found the crash site in a small clearing. Trees had been knocked over and the grass was scorched. In the middle of it all was a strange ship. It was small, like a one-person pod, and its smooth silver surface was cracked and dented. Jiho didn't know much about spaceships, but he could tell this wasn't from Earth. He walked closer, feeling both scared and excited. This was something out of a science fiction movie. He peeked through the cracked window of the pod. Inside, something was moving. He stepped back as the door opened with a hiss. Steam came out and the lights on the pod blinked red. Then he saw her. She was tall, much taller than any woman he had ever seen. Her skin was light purple, and she had wings, big feathery wings folded behind her back. Her hair was silver and long, falling over her shoulders like silk. Her eyes glowed a soft blue in the darkness. She stumbled out of the pod and fell to one knee. Jiho rushed forward. "Are you okay?" he asked, unsure if she would even understand him. She looked up at him, breathing hard. Her lips moved, but the words were not from any language he knew. Still, her voice was soft, almost musical. Her eyes were filled with pain and confusion. She tried to stand but fell again. Jiho caught her before she hit the ground. Her body was warm, and he could feel the strength in her muscles even though she was weak. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said slowly. "I want to help." She tilted her head, trying to understand. Then after a long pause, she nodded weakly. It took a lot of effort, but Jiho helped her stand. She leaned on him as they walked away from the pod. Jiho knew a small cabin nearby. It was his grandfather's old hunting cabin, and no one used it anymore. It had a bed, blankets, and a small stove. It would be better than leaving her in the forest. When they reached the cabin, Jiho helped her lie down on the bed. She didn't speak, but she kept her eyes on him. He could tell she was watching him closely, trying to figure out if he was a threat or not. Jiho lit a small fire in the stove and brought her some water. She drank it slowly, her hands shaking. "What are you?" Jiho asked softly. She pointed at herself and said, "Ara." "Your name?" he guessed. She nodded. "Ara." He pointed at himself. "Jiho." She tried to say it. "Ji-ho." He smiled. "Close enough." For the rest of the night, Jiho stayed near her, checking her wounds. She had a deep cut on her side and a bruise on her forehead. He cleaned the cut with some clean water and wrapped it with a bandage from the first aid kit. She flinched but didn't stop him. Ara looked at him strangely, as if surprised that he was helping her. When he finished, he gave her one of the cabin's old blankets. She wrapped it around herself and leaned back, resting her head on the pillow. "Sleep," Jiho said gently. "You're safe here." She looked into his eyes. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she whispered a word in her language. He didn't understand it, but it sounded like, "Thank you." Jiho didn't sleep much that night. He sat on the floor near the fire, watching over her. He kept wondering what she was, where she came from, and why she had crashed here. Was she from another world? Was she alone? And why did she have wings? There were so many questions, but none of them mattered as much as the fact that she needed help, and he had helped her. As the fire crackled and the wind whispered outside, Jiho looked at the strange alien girl sleeping in his grandfather's bed and knew that his life had just changed forever. He didn't know it yet, but this was just the beginning. The morning sun peeked through the small window of the cabin. Its light touched Ara's face, gently waking her from sleep. She blinked her glowing blue eyes slowly and sat up, wrapping the old blanket tightly around her thin shoulders. Jiho was already awake. He was sitting on a wooden chair near the window, looking out into the forest. When he saw her move, he smiled and stood up. "Good morning, Ara," he said softly. "Did you sleep okay?" Ara looked at him for a moment, then nodded. Her wings stretched a little behind her, showing long feathers that shone like silver. In the sunlight, Jiho felt a mix of surprise and curiosity. He had never seen wings like those before. They were beautiful but also strong. "Do you want breakfast?" Jiho asked, walking to the small kitchen area. He found some bread and fruit he had brought with him. Ara watched him carefully but said nothing. Jiho guessed she didn't know his language well yet. He brought the food to the table and sat down across from her. He tore a piece of bread and offered it to her. Ara took the bread slowly and tasted it. Her eyes widened in surprise. The taste was new and different, but she liked it. Jiho smiled. Good. After breakfast, Jiho wanted to learn more about Ara. He took out a small notebook and a pencil from his backpack. He started drawing pictures, hoping to communicate. First, he drew a simple picture of the earth, with blue oceans and green land. He pointed at it and said, "Earth." Ara looked at the drawing and shook her head. She drew a small planet next to it. It was round but had 2 moons. Then she pointed at herself and said, "Ara." Jiho nodded. "Your home?" She drew a small spaceship next to the planet, and then a picture of the crash. Jiho understood. She was far from home. Something had gone wrong with her ship. He wrote down a simple question. "Are you hurt?" She nodded and pointed to the cut on her side. Jiho touched the bandage gently. "I will help." Days passed. Jiho and Ara stayed in the cabin. Every day they tried to talk using drawings, gestures, and simple words. Jiho taught her some Korean words, and she tried to say them. Ara was very smart. She learned quickly. She told Jiho her people were from a planet called Solari. It was far beyond the stars Jiho knew. She was a scout, sent to explore new worlds. But her ship had been attacked by unknown enemies. That's why she crashed here. Jiho was amazed. He had never thought about space travel like this. He had only read about it in books. One afternoon, while they were outside the cabin, Jiho noticed something strange. Ara's wings were not only for flying, they could glow softly when she was nervous or excited. When Jiho helped her pick some berries, her wings lit up with a soft blue light. She looked embarrassed and quickly folded them. "Are you okay?" Jiho asked. She nodded, but didn't say anything. Jiho smiled. "Your wings are amazing." Ara smiled back, a small smile that showed she trusted him more each day. At night they sat by the fire and Jiho shared stories about Earth. He told her about his family, the small town, and the stars they could see in the sky. Ara listened quietly. Then she told him about Solari's sky, full of 3 suns and 2 moons. She spoke of great cities built on floating islands and forests where creatures like her lived in peace. Jiho could only imagine. One evening, as the fire died down, Ara suddenly stood up. Her eyes were wide with fear. Jiho followed her outside. The forest was quiet, but the air felt heavy. Suddenly a strange sound came from the trees, a low growl, unlike any animal Jiho knew. From the shadows stepped a dark figure. It was tall and strong, but not human. Its eyes glowed red, and it moved slowly but with power. Jiho's heart raced. He stepped in front of Ara, ready to protect her. The figure spoke in a harsh voice, but Jiho didn't understand the words. Ara growled softly and spread her wings wide. Her feathers glowed bright blue. The dark figure took a step back, watching her carefully. Jiho realized this was why Ara had crashed. Her enemies were here, on Earth. Without warning, the figure lunged toward them. Jiho grabbed a heavy stick nearby and swung it. Ara flew up, her wings beating fast, and landed on Jiho's shoulder. "Hold on," she whispered. Jiho held tight as she flew with surprising strength and speed. They escaped deeper into the forest. After a long run, they found a hidden cave. Ara pushed Jiho inside and blocked the entrance with her wings. They were safe for now. Inside the cave, Jiho looked at Ara. She was breathing hard, but her eyes were calm. "You saved me," she said softly. Jiho smiled. "I will always help you." Ara nodded, and for the first time she touched his hand gently with her own. It was a small moment, but it meant a lot. They were not just friends now. Something new was growing between them. The next day they returned to the cabin. Jiho knew they could not stay hidden forever. The enemies might come again. He decided to help Ara fix her ship. Together they gathered broken parts from the crash site and used old tools from the cabin. It was hard work. Jiho had never done anything like this before, but Ara showed him how to connect wires and fix the damaged engine. Each day they worked side by side, growing closer. Ara's wings would glow softly when she was happy or nervous, and Jiho found himself watching them more than he wanted to admit. One afternoon, while they were fixing the last parts of the ship, Ara stopped and looked at Jiho. "Jiho," she said, her voice soft. "Thank you." Jiho smiled. "You don't have to thank me. I want to help." She nodded. Then for a moment she looked shy. Jiho waited. Then Ara leaned closer and gently touched his cheek with her hand. Her skin was cool but smooth. Jiho felt a warm feeling in his chest. He smiled back, not knowing what to say. As night fell, Jiho looked at the stars with Ara by his side. "Soon you will go home," he said quietly. Ara nodded. "Yes, but I will never forget you." Jiho felt sad but happy at the same time. "I will never forget you either." The wind moved through the trees and Ara's wings fluttered gently. They were two very different beings from two different worlds. But in this quiet cabin in the forest, they had found something rare and beautiful. True connection. The sun was just rising when Jiho and Ara finished their work on the small ship. The engine looked stronger now, and the cracks in the metal had been sealed as best as they could. Jiho wiped the sweat from his forehead and smiled. "It's ready," he said. Ara nodded but didn't smile. Her wings were folded tight against her back and her eyes looked far away, worried. Jiho knew the danger was not over. The dark figure from the forest was still out there. It wanted to find Ara and stop her from going home. They needed to leave, soon. That morning, Jiho packed a small bag with food and water. He was ready to go with Ara, even though he didn't know if he could fly in the ship with her. "I will stay with you," he told her. "We face this together." Ara looked surprised but happy. She said a word in her language. "Jiwan." Jiho did not understand, but he guessed it meant thank you or friend. They left the cabin quietly. The forest was alive with the sounds of birds and leaves rustling in the wind. But Jiho's heart was heavy with fear. What if the enemies found them before they left? As they walked toward the crash site, a sudden noise made them stop. From behind the trees came three tall, dark figures. Their eyes glowed red, and their bodies were strong and covered with armor. Jiho's grip tightened on the stick he carried. The figures did not speak. They moved slowly but with clear purpose. One pointed at Ara, then at Jiho, and then toward the sky. Ara's wings spread wide, glowing bright blue. She growled softly, ready to fight. Jiho stood by her side. "We don't want to fight," he said firmly. The dark figures did not listen. They advanced. The fight began. Jiho swung his stick at one of the enemies, hitting its arm. It was harder than he thought. The enemy did not fall, but only stepped back. Ara took flight, her wings beating strong. She moved fast, striking the enemies, with sharp claws and powerful kicks. Her feathers shined in the sun as she fought bravely. Jiho tried to keep up but was slower. One enemy grabbed him by the arm, pulling him toward the ground. Ara saw this and flew quickly to save him. She pushed the enemy back and helped Jiho stand. "Run!" she shouted. Jiho and Ara ran toward the ship. The enemies were behind them, but they did not stop. They reached the ship and Ara quickly opened the door. Jiho jumped inside with her. The small space was tight, but it was better than fighting outside. Ara started the engine. The ship hummed and shook. Lights blinked on the control panel. Outside, the enemy stopped at the edge of the clearing, watching. Jiho held his breath as the ship lifted off the ground. The ship flew above the trees and into the sky. Jiho looked down and saw the dark figures, disappearing into the forest. For a moment, he felt relief. They were safe, at least for now. Ara flew the ship with skill and speed. The stars were bright above them, shining like diamonds. Jiho watched her face. She looked tired but determined. He wanted to say something to make her feel better but didn't know what. Instead, he reached out and took her hand. She squeezed it gently in return. After a while, the ship's engine began to slow. Ara pointed to a small planet on the control panel. It was green and blue, much like Earth but different. "We are close," she said quietly. Jiho smiled. "You're home?" She nodded but looked nervous. "Are you scared?" Jiho asked. She paused and then said, "Yes." Jiho understood. Returning home was not easy. She had lost her ship and enemies were still chasing her, but she was brave. The ship entered the atmosphere of the planet. The view was beautiful. Mountains, forests, and shining cities floated in the sky. Ara guided the ship to a landing platform near a city. The platform was high above the ground, built on a floating island. The doors of the ship opened and they stepped out. The city was full of tall buildings made of glass and metal. Lights sparkled everywhere, and strange flying vehicles moved through the sky. Ara looked around, breathing deeply. She was home. Jiho followed her, amazed by the new world. Suddenly, soldiers appeared, surrounding them with weapons ready. Ara raised her hands. "I come in peace," she said. The soldiers looked at each other, confused but lowering their weapons. A tall woman with silver hair and wings stepped forward. She looked like Ara, but older and stronger. "You return at last, Ara," she said. Ara nodded and said something to the soldiers. They stepped back. Jiho watched silently. He was a stranger here. The tall woman turned to him. "Who are you?" "I am Jiho," he said. "I helped Ara." She studied him carefully. "You are brave. To come this far." Ara led Jiho to a large building nearby. Inside, she met with leaders and told them about the enemies chasing her. The leaders were worried. They had heard of the dark figures, dangerous beings from another part of the galaxy who wanted to control their planet. Ara was a scout and a warrior. She had to stop them. Jiho listened quietly. He wanted to help, but he was just a human. One leader looked at Jiho and said, "Your courage is strong. If you want to help Ara, you are welcome here." Jiho smiled. He felt proud. That night, Jiho and Ara sat on a balcony overlooking the city. The lights below were like stars on the ground. Jiho asked, "What will you do now?" Ara looked at him, her wings glowing softly. "I must protect my home. The enemies will come again." Jiho reached for her hand. "I will help." She smiled, the first real smile Jiho had seen from her. Suddenly, alarms sounded through the city. Lights flashed red. "Attack!" a soldier shouted. Jiho and Ara stood up quickly. The dark enemies had found them again. The city's defense system began to activate. Flying vehicles took off and soldiers prepared for battle. Jiho looked at Ara. "We fight together." Her wings spread wide, glowing bright blue. The battle began. Jiho stayed close to Ara as she flew through the sky, fighting the dark enemies. With skill and power, Jiho used whatever he could, a small weapon given by the soldiers and his quick thinking. Together they pushed the enemies back. After a long fight, the enemies retreated. The city was safe. For now. Jiho and Ara looked at each other, tired but strong. "You are not alone," Jiho said. Ara nodded. "Together we are stronger." As the stars shone above the city, Jiho and Ara knew their journey was only beginning. Danger was still near, but so was hope. And in this strange new world, a human and a winged alien Beastwoman had found friendship, trust, and maybe something more. The city lights were soft that night. Jiho stood on the balcony of a tall building looking out at the stars. The wind was quiet. The sky was clear. Ara stood beside him, her wings folded. They had fought a hard battle. The city was still standing. The enemies were gone for now. "You look tired," Jiho said gently. Ara smiled. "I am, but I feel at peace." Jiho turned to her. "Is it really over?" She shook her head. "Not forever. The void may return one day, but for now we have time. We can rest." Over the next few days, the city began to heal. Broken buildings were repaired. Wounded soldiers rested. Children played again in the streets. Hope returned to the hearts of Ara's people. Jiho walked among them, now seen as a hero. Some of the Solari bowed to him. Others smiled or offered him food. He felt strange, but also proud. He had not planned to stay on this planet. He didn't even know what it was called when he arrived, but now it felt like home. One morning, Ara brought Jiho to a quiet place on the edge of the floating city. It was a garden, full of glowing plants and small singing birds. "I used to come here when I was young," Ara said, "before I became a warrior." Jiho sat beside her on a smooth stone bench. "It's beautiful." Ara looked at him. "I need to ask you something." Jiho nodded. "Anything." She hesitated. "What do you want now, Jiho? You came from Earth. Your people don't live like we do. Do you want to go back?" Jiho thought about it. He missed Earth sometimes. He missed the smell of the sea, the sound of city traffic, the taste of spicy noodles from his favorite street shop. But he also knew what he had found here was different, important, I think. "I want to stay," Jiho said softly. Ara's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" Jiho smiled. "You saved me just as much as I saved you. I want to be by your side." Ara looked at him for a long time. Then slowly, she reached out and wrapped her wings around him. "Then stay," she whispered. The days passed gently after that. Ara and Jiho worked together to help rebuild. Jiho learned to speak more words in the Solari language. He helped children learn how to build small things. He even taught some of them how to make music with a wooden flute. Ara began training new warriors. She taught them how to use their wings, with care, not only to fight but also to protect. She was no longer just a scout. The council named her Star Guardian, a protector of the planet and the light of her people. Jiho was proud of her. One evening, the two of them returned to the garden. The sky above was dark but filled with stars. Ara leaned against Jiho. "I had a dream," she said. "What kind of dream?" he asked. "I was flying through the stars, but I wasn't alone. You were there, flying beside me. You didn't have wings, but somehow you were flying." Jiho laughed. "That's a nice dream." She looked at him. "Maybe we can make it real. My people have a new ship. It's small, but strong. I want to explore again, and I want you with me." Jiho felt His heart lift. You want me to go with you? Out there? Ara nodded. We would go as a team. No more hiding. No more fear. Just us and the stars. Jiho stood up and stretched. When do we leave? Ara grinned. Tomorrow. The next day they stood at the edge of a new ship. It was silver and smooth, shaped like a bird. The wings folded into the body and the engine glowed softly. A few soldiers and leaders came to say goodbye. Some gave Jiho food for the journey. Others hugged Ara. You will be missed, one elder said, but you will also find new lights among the stars. Ara bowed. Jiho simply smiled. They entered the ship together. Jiho took the co-pilot seat. Ara sat at the controls. The engine hummed. The ship lifted gently from the platform. As they rose into the sky, Jiho looked down at the city. His heart was full. He had come from Earth, a stranger, lost in the woods. Now he was a traveler of the stars, beside a winged alien Beastwoman who had become his closest friend, and maybe something more. In space, the stars stretched endlessly. The galaxy was wide and full of mystery. Jiho looked at Ara. Where to first? Ara tapped the screen. There's a system not far from here. It has strange moons and ancient ruins. I want to see it. Jiho nodded. Then let's go. The ship moved forward, light trailing behind it. As the stars flew past the window, Ara suddenly leaned back in her seat and gave Jiho a playful smile. You're too serious today. Jiho blinked. What do you mean? Ara suddenly reached out, lifted Jiho from his seat with one strong arm and again dropped him gently onto a soft pillow bed behind the cockpit. Hey. Jiho laughed. Not again. You look too tense, she said, laughing as she walked over. Jiho sat up, grinning. You always do this. Why is it always a pillow? Ara smiled brightly. Because it's soft, and you're small. They both laughed, the sound echoing through the small ship. Out there, the stars waited. New adventures would come. New dangers, too. But together, they were strong. A human boy from Earth. A winged alien warrior from the stars. Two hearts from different worlds flying side by side.